Most bikes start to feel sick long before you ever see 20,000 feet. Your lungs are working harder. Your head feels light. The carb or the fuel map is fighting to stay alive in air that is barely there at all. If you are lucky, the motor coughs its way up the last switchback. If you are not, you are pushing. Now imagine this. You are on the side of the world's highest active volcano in Chile. The Atacama Desert is far below you. The sky is a pale thin blue above you. Rocks crunch under the tires and every breath feels like someone tightened a strap across your chest. You glance down at the bike. No cylinders pumping. No exhaust note at all. Just a quiet whine under your boots and a battery that says, "We can keep going." Welcome back to Haunted Throttle Night Shift. Tune in while you tune up. Tonight we are in the garage talking about a new world record where an electric dirt bike just went higher than most gas bikes will ever dream of. A Stark Varg EX electric Enduro climbed to over 22,000 feet on Los Ojos del Salado, the highest active volcano on Earth, and in the process it landed a fresh world altitude mark for motorcycles. So grab a coffee, grab a wrench, and let's talk about why thin air kills gas motors, why this electric did not care, and what it says about the future of real backcountry riding. First, let's set the scene. Los Ojos del Salado sits on the border of Chile and Argentina. The summit is just under 23,000 feet above sea level. It is a giant pile of rock and salt and ice that rises out of the Atacama, which is already one of the driest places on the planet. If you have never been that high, here is what changes. The air pressure drops so far that every step feels like a sprint. Water boils at a lower temperature. Your heart rate climbs even when you are just standing still. If you are not acclimated, you get a pounding headache and you feel foggy. Climbers talk about how simple tasks become big jobs. Just tying your boots or zipping a jacket takes focus. Now take that environment and drop a motorcycle into it. A gas motor needs oxygen to burn fuel. The higher you go, the less oxygen you have. That means less power, rougher running, and a very real chance that the motor just quits. Carbureted bikes struggle first. Even fuel injection can only do so much when the atmosphere itself is saying no. That is why altitude records usually involve specially tuned machines, light riders, and routes picked inch by inch. The Stark Varg EX is different. It is fully electric. No pistons. No fuel. No air and fuel mixture to worry about. At sea level or at 22,000 feet, the motor itself does not care how thick the air is. As long as the battery and the electronics stay in their temperature window, the torque is there. That does not mean the climb was easy. You still have brutal cold, loose rock, ice patches, and the simple fact that the rider is a human being with lungs that absolutely do care how thin the air has become. The company brought in Swiss mountaineer and rider Yuri Zak to pilot the attempt. This is not your average local trail day. This is someone who lives and trains in the mountains and knows how to move and breathe at altitude. They staged at high camps up the volcano, working their way higher with support vehicles. The bike itself was essentially stock. That part matters. They did not put some wild prototype motor in a one-off frame. The claim is that you could buy a Varg EX, set it up right, and it would have the same basic hardware sitting under you. When record day came, they rolled out into that Martian-looking rock field and started climbing. If you picture a smooth gravel road up a mountain, erase that. Up on Los Ojos the landscape is a mix of loose volcanic stone, sand, frozen ruts, and sections where the bike has to pick its way through rubble. At that height you do not have much suspension travel left in your body, either. Every mistake takes more out of you. Here is where electric torque shines. On a gas bike at high altitude, you are constantly trying to keep the motor in the sweet spot. You feather the clutch, you worry about stalling, you roll on and off the throttle because you do not have a lot of power in reserve. The motor can feel sleepy. On the Varg EX, twist the throttle and torque is there instantly, even in the thin air. You can focus more on line choice and traction and less on babying a wheezy engine. The challenge shifts from keeping the motor alive to managing traction and battery. Because yes, the battery is the other big question. Cold is brutal for lithium packs. Anyone who has tried to start an electric car or scooter in a freezing parking lot knows that feeling. Power falls off. Range shrinks. Now move that situation to a mountain face with sub-freezing wind and dust and long sections of low-speed climbing where you cannot count on cooling airflow. The team planned around that. They used a mix of pacing, routing, and careful power management to keep the pack in the safe zone. They were not sprinting, they were creeping and picking through rock gardens where a dropped bike could end the attempt for the day. Eventually the GPS number ticked past 20,000 feet. Then 21. Then past 22,000 feet above sea level. At that point the Stark had gone higher than the official altitude records for a lot of traditional motorcycles and even some other electric experiments on that same Volcano. It is one thing to read that number on a screen. It is another thing to picture it. Imagine standing beside your bike on a ridge where the clouds are below you. The wind is thin and cold and you can see miles of desert and salt flats under a sky that looks almost white. You pull your helmet off to take a breath and immediately regret it, because the air feels like you are trying to drink through a straw. Now imagine that silence. No rumble. No exhaust pop. Just your own breathing and the crunch of boots and the small electric whine when you blip the throttle to move the bike around for photos. That is the image that is going to stick in a lot of riders' heads. So what does this record actually mean for the rest of us? First, it proves a point that electric fans have been making for a while. When it comes to pure mechanical simplicity in extreme environments, an electric drivetrain has some real advantages. No jetting. No air and fuel ratios. Less to worry about when the atmosphere gets weird. Second, it acts as a giant marketing shot. Stark and every other electric dirt bike brand can now say, look, these things are not toys for backyard tracks. They can handle serious mountain duty. Third, it throws fuel on the conversation about what adventure riding looks like 10 or 20 years from now. Right now, if you are planning a week-long backcountry ride, especially somewhere remote, an electric bike is a hard sell. Charging infrastructure is thin. Range on current packs means you are either riding with a truck and a generator or you are staying close to civilization. But hits like this record show what is possible on the hardware side. Give that same bike another generation of battery tech, or a clever system of swappable packs with solar charging at camp, and suddenly your favorite mountain routes start to look more electric friendly. There is also the cultural side. Part of the identity of dirt bikes and adventure bikes is sound. The bark of a single. The growl of a twin. For a lot of riders, that noise is half the fun. For land managers and neighbors near trails, that noise is half the problem. A quiet electric climbing through high desert means less disturbance for wildlife and less friction with people who do not love the sound of a warm-up lap at sunrise. On the other hand, some riders hear that quiet whine and feel like something is missing. So let us bring this back to the garage. You are sitting on your stool right now. Maybe your bike is on a stand behind you. Maybe it is an air-cooled classic. Maybe it is a big fuel-injected adventure twin. Maybe it is already electric. What would it take for you to trust an electric in serious backcountry? Would you need to see a certain range number? Would you want built-in fast charging and a way to top up off-grid? Would you only use it for day rides and keep a gas bike for the week-long trips? Or does a story like this already have you shopping for a demo ride? My take is this. Gas is not going away tomorrow. The sound and feel of a good internal combustion motor on a mountain road is not going to vanish overnight. But anyone who dismisses electric as a toy after this Volcano record is not paying attention. What we saw on Los Ojos del Salado is a peek at a future where the limiting factor is not the machine but the rider and the terrain. Electric brings new strengths and new problems, and some of those problems are getting solved way faster than most people expect. So drop a comment and tell me where you stand. If a company rolled a real trail-ready electric Enduro into your local shop tomorrow, with the torque to wheelie out of turns and the proven guts to climb into thin air, would you ride it? Would you buy it? Or are you staying loyal to gas until the last station on your favorite route runs dry? Either way, nights like this are why we hang out in the garage. A world record on the side of a silent volcano. A bike that climbed into the sky without a single pop of exhaust. And riders around the world arguing about it while they turn wrenches on their own projects. You have been watching Haunted Throttle Night Shift. Keep your tires round, keep your head up, and keep coming back to the garage. Good night.